What's up? It's Dirk here again, and I'm going to be talking about what happened in our past week for sports around our state of Colorado. So let's start with the NHL. So the Avs put together a solid week going 2-1, and the Avs ended up getting the week done at home going 2-0 on their 2-game home stretch. And at home, the Avs beat the Coyotes and Canucks, but the Avs lost to the Detroit Red Wings. Against Arizona, the Avs won 4-3, being the final score. And against the Canucks, Ryan Johansson got 2 goals, and Georgie made 24 saves while only letting up 1 goal to have a final score of 3-1. And against the Wings, McKinnon got 1 goal as we lost 2-1. So it was a solid week. At least it wasn't losing. And now let's look at the standings for it. Let's start with the wild card standings or playoffs standings. In the Central Division, there's the Winnipeg Jets and Dallas Stars tied for first with 79 points. And the Avs are third with 77 points. In the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks have 83 points, which they've pulled ahead of the other 2 teams in there, which is the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. And in the wild card spot, there's the LA Kings, which is only 2 points behind the Edmonton Oilers. And there's the Nashville Predators, which is 9 spots behind the Colorado Avalanche. The 2 teams behind them are the Calgary Flames and the St. Louis Blues. So now let's look at our Central Division standings. So the Central Division, they're a good division, and they have 2 teams right on top behind the Avs. So it goes Jets, Stars, Avs, and then behind that there's the Predators, Blues, Wild, Coyotes, and Blackhawks. And the Coyotes and Blackhawks don't really have much of a chance, in my opinion, because they're so far behind the rest of the division, and there's a decent drop-off from the Avs to the Predators, so I don't see them having much of a chance. So now let's go into the NBA. So the Nuggets, this past week, the Nuggets went 2-0 against the Washington. We won 130-110 while Michael Porter Jr. had 22 points and Nikola Jokic had 19 rebounds, 15 assists. And to end the week off against Portland, the Nuggets won 127-112. Michael Porter Jr. had 34 points and Jokic had 15 rebounds and 14 assists. So it was a solid week for the Nuggets. They got some wins they needed. Now let's look at the standings to see how it's shaping off. So like the top 6, so they won't have to play in, is the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Falcons, the Suns, and then you got the play-in people, which is the Kings, the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Lakers. That's it for the teams that are making the playoffs, but it's solid. And now let's look at the division standings. So the Northwest Division, it looks like this: Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, Denver Nuggets, Utah Jazz, Portland Trail Blazers. So the Nuggets, they're behind 2 teams, but they sit in third in the playoff look because the 2 teams are doing real good with 41 wins, while the Nuggets have 39 wins, which is also good for the team. And then the Jazz kind of drop below and have 27 wins and 32 losses. So I feel like the Nuggets are doing good. And now let's go into college basketball. So I know this one may be one of the longest, but let's start it off differently starting with the men's basketball rankings. So it goes like this: Houston, Purdue, UConn, Tennessee, Marquette, Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, North Carolina, Duke, Auburn, Creighton, Illinois, Alabama, Baylor, Kentucky, St. Mary's, South Carolina, Washington State, San Diego State, Dayton, Utah State, Gonzaga, Florida, and South Florida. Other teams that receive votes are BYU, Texas Tech, TCU, Clemson, Wake Forest, Wisconsin, Nevada, Colorado State, Arizona State, New Mexico, FAU, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Mississippi State, Washington, Appalachian State, McNeese, Loyola, Chicago, Indiana State, Northwestern, and Boise State. There were 3 teams that dropped from the rankings, and they were Colorado State, Texas Tech, and BYU. So now let's look how the Colorado teams have performed this past week. So the Air Force, they went 1-1 this week, and they got their second conference win of the season at New Mexico. Against UNLV, the Falcons lost 72-43, and against New Mexico, the Air Force Falcons won in 78-77 in a thrilling game. The Falcons weren't the only team that went 1-1 this past week, because the other team was Northern Colorado. The Bears beat Idaho 76-62, and the Bears lost to Eastern Washington 85-76. The Pioneers from Denver went 0-1 this past week while losing to South Dakota State 97-70. So, and Denver wasn't the only team that played one game, since Colorado played one game this past week, and the Buffaloes ended up beating the Utah Utes with the final score being 89-65. And Colorado State, they played 2 games this week. Both of the games were losses. At New Mexico, the Rams lost 68-66 as they missed a shot at the buzzer that would have won the game. And the Rams also went to Las Vegas to play UNLV, and they lost with the final score being 66-60. The Rams have stayed with their bad away record in conference play, and let's hope that doesn't hurt them as the race to March Madness is on. So now let's look at the standings from the conference that we have teams in our state of Colorado in. So, wasn't the best for Colorado, but some teams got needed wins, like Air Force. I don't know if it will help Air Force, but it's just good to get wins when you can to, maybe jump up some spots, And the first conference we'll be looking at is the Big Sky Conference. It looks like this, with Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado, Montana, Weber State, Montana State, Idaho State, Portland State, Northern Arizona, Idaho, Sacramento, and the Sacramento State. So it isn't hurting Northern Colorado too much with that one loss this week, because they're still sitting in second place there, which would most likely give them the second seed in the conference tournament. Now the Mountain West looks like this: Utah State, Boise State, San Diego State, Nevada, UNLV, New Mexico, Colorado State, Wyoming, Fresno State, and Air Force. Colorado State may be one of the last teams, but the Mountain West is so close, seeing that Colorado State's only 3 games behind, and they have an 8-8 conference record. So they get 3 or 4 big wins. You can see them jump up a lot in their conference play, even with 2 wins, with how close it is. And then we have Pac-12, which has Arizona, Washington State, Oregon, UCLA, Colorado, California, Arizona State, Utah, Washington, Stanford, USC, and Oregon State. So same thing for Colorado. They're only 3 games behind the top team, which is being Arizona. So It's close, even though they may not be, like as I said, that close. Now let's go into the Summit League, which will be our final league that we're going to be talking about standings-wise. It looks like the South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Kansas City, St. Thomas, Minnesota, Omaha, Denver, Oral Roberts, and South Dakota. I mean, Denver hasn't had that close, but the top team, South Dakota State, has had a decent bit of losses, so they're only 4 games behind, saying they're sitting third to last in their conference. So, see ya, and thanks for listening to what's happening sports-wise in our state of Colorado. See ya.